afternoon, and I have a special guest with me, Larry Pond, okay, at the GMS Theater here at NSA Thrive Convention. And Larry, we had a side conversation, and we were discussing the value, all right, of what you bring and could be bringing to members already at NSA. And folks, believe it or not, ready for this? It's tax, not thumb tax, all right, but basically the tax structure. All right, as individuals, probably from an entrepreneurial way, okay, understanding structure, understanding what the area of opportunity is. All right, how do we get above this? So, Larry, all right, how do we get involved in tax?
Well, first of all, we just need to understand what your financial situation is
That's a good idea.
and also what your financial goals are.
Hmm.
And based upon that, we're going to figure out what tax strategies make the most sense for you.
Got it.
And I know a lot of speakers don't manage their taxes very well.
Okay, good. So now we're working on the speaker world right
Right,
now. All
exactly.
right? And these folks themselves, and it's probably goes, Larry, it probably goes with a lot of different business structures, okay, where they're looking at taxation and everything else like this. I've deserved, I didn't, and I did, and I did, and before, so why do I have to give? Okay.
Right.
Or what do I have to supply? Okay.
Mhm.
Out there. But what are some of the hurdles for individuals when we're talking about tax and tax structure, especially for those entrepreneurs, such as speakers as these that
Right.
influence? I mean, when I influence and thrive. All right.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I think the first thing is, where are you getting your advice? And I think there's a big thing people need to understand. There's a difference of information
Right.
and advice. And, you get a lot of information from the IRS website,
exactly,
and
yeah.
form instructions. All that's information, but
Sure.
that's not where you get advice.
That's probably left up to interpretation, of course.
Exactly. But the other thing is, where are you getting your advice? And let me tell you, two things are not good places for advice.
Right.
Not artificial intelligence
Right.
and not social media.
Yeah, right.
Oh
exactly.
my goodness.
AI and social media are definitely out of the questions for tax advice.
That's right. And people follow them, and then they end up in tax court.
Right.
And then they get the book thrown at them, and
Sure.
they wonder why they have to pay a 20% penalty.
Right. Exactly. So what are some of the problems that we're seeing? What are some of the issues themselves that we're seeing, especially for entrepreneurs, presenters, speakers, facilitators, trainers, teachers are already in this regard?
Right. Well, first of all, good record keeping is like the number one thing that's the most
Okay.
important. So don't mix your personal accounts and your business account.
Commingling, right?
No,
keep
no.
the
Have a separate
commingling out.
checking account for your business.
Right.
All your income comes in there as deposits.
Mm,
Get a separate credit card.
right.
Don't play the points game or whatever.
Sure.
And nowadays, at the end of the year, the credit card companies give you that beautiful year-end summary.
Yeah. Right.
So if you follow those two simple rules,
Simple. Yeah.
that'll help you keep out of trouble, but
Yep.
also keep good records. As speakers, we incur all kinds of deductible expenses.
Right. Exactly.
Mainly travel,
Yep.
mileage. We drive around a lot.
Sure. Right.
And we got to
Exactly.
buy equipment, supplies. You might even have to remodel your studio at home.
Sure. Exactly.
So those are great write-offs.
Yeah. What about structure? I mean, here's the thing. We're talking about a topic of tax, okay? That there was a lot of folks themselves, if they knew tax code,
Mhm.
okay, and that augment their business, most likely that's probably not their business, okay? And so they're going to seek out professionals, all right? Professionals such as yourself.
Right.
But there are individuals themselves giving bad advice out there probably, all right? So how do we know to what tax advisor that we should be looking for? What are some of the key things that I should be looking for?
Right. That's a really important thing. And it's a challenge now because there's a shortage of good tax advisors out
There's
there.
a shortage of just about everything out
There's
there.
a shortage of everything. And one of my personal goals is to get more people in the profession. I try to talk to young people to consider. I love my profession.
Right.
I'm a tax nerd. I love tax.
All right.
I want to instill that into.
You're a different type of person. You know
I
that, right?
certainly am, but I teach them, I train them, I want to upgrade their skills
Okay, good.
so they could be the go-to people for tax advice and tax preparation.
Education, big part.
Education's a big part. You want to, see what their training and background is,
Mhm.
and don't just meet the minimum requirements. It's not going to be enough. But most importantly, here's my simple rule:
Mhm.
if they have to advertise, that's probably the person you're not looking for.
Right, probably so.
Right. So the best,
Billboard advertising.
no, especially the billboards,
exactly,
TV,
right,
radio.
exactly, yeah.
But it's mostly a referral.
Okay.
A referral to someone with a situation similar to yours.
Right.
And if they're doing a good job for that person, most
Sure.
likely they'll do a good job
And
for you.
I work the same way in a lot of my business structures themselves. I'm looking for referrals. I'm looking for individuals themselves that I know that I can trust that
Right.
somebody else is working. Now I still have to verify,
Right.
without about 100%. But I'm looking for an individual itself that's going to be able to work within the confines of my structure too, as well. And I think that's
Right.
equally important. What about the types of people themselves that really need to hear your message, though? We were talking about there are certain groups besides the speakers groups.
Right.
There are other individuals. What are some of those other groups you work with?
Well, I'm a professional tax speaker,
Okay,
and
good.
that's what I do. I used to have a practice.
Okay.
I sold that. I transitioned to be a full-time tax speaker.
Okay.
And the two audiences I speak to are tax professionals. So I
Right.
want to upgrade their skills,
Yeah.
keep them up to date, make them better tax advice, and help
Good.
them make money, most
Sure.
importantly.
Exactly.
And the second audience are financial advisors. So they can stay
Financial
on top
advisors.
of
Yeah.
tax strategies and see what makes sense for their clients. And then they become a more valuable advisor.
I think those advisors themselves, they're in a position to help people
Right.
already, even though a lot of the structure for today's tax advisors is plug in a number, spits out a result. This is where you need to go and things of this nature. But I think along the lines, like everything else, real estate and finance and the different types of positions out there, especially doctors nowadays, you got to know a little bit about the profession. You got to know a little bit about what you're doing, how you're doing, why you're doing what you're doing. You've got advisors themselves that are giving individuals tax information, financial information, and they're not up to date. All right. Or they're not quite sure. I'm not asking them to read the tax code.
Right.
All right. But I'm really want to say, okay, be aware.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And that's a problem because unfortunately, a lot of people aren't staying up to date.
Right.
Laws change daily.
They're
The rules
minute
change
by minute,
daily.
minute by minute.
Well,
Right?
there's sometimes someone will tell me something. I say, "Oh, that law changed in 1977,"
Right.
and "Oh, that law changed in 1997." So
Right. Right.
so you got to stay on top of it.
And why are there so many changes like that? You would figure there would be one tax, one structure, one code. I guess there's a different type of environment for folks, and the different types of structures and jobs and dependents and things of this nature. But in that regards, where does this all fall into play? From the standpoint of really educating, and that's what you're doing. You're educating people themselves or awareness
Right.
or to how this
Right.
structure is now could hurt or could help the financial or long-term positioning. All right. So how do you now, what are some of the key issues or key items themselves that you bring up to
It's
these
a
folks?
team effort too. It's a team effort.
Okay.
So part of the training I give, I give training to financial planners on how to work with a tax professional
Okay.
because
Good.
they don't understand how to work with a tax professional,
Right.
and they'll have miscommunication and hurt feelings and all that.
Yeah. Right.
So, and also to clients. And when I had my practice, I trained my clients on how to work with me.
Good.
Well, number one, don't lie to me. Okay. That doesn't work very well
That's right.
when they
Exactly.
lie to you, or don't cheat. I mean, you don't save any money by cheating. You really don't save any money by cheating.
Right. Exactly.
So those are two things you don't do.
So, Larry, what are they cheating on? What, they're not reporting certain dollars. It's not
It's
reporting.
like
I want to make sure that
Right.
our speaker folks themselves know
right.
because there is probably a line of delineation.
right,
Okay.
right,
Somewhere along the lines where they'll say, well, I can fudge that or I can do this and anything else like this. They're going to be main
right,
expenses.
right,
And there are going to be those expenses that could be borderline
right.
up to
right.
interpretation and things of this nature. So what's the education on that?
I think the thing is we have a lot of creative people.
Oh,
We just
yeah,
we don't want to get too creative.
right,
Right.
exactly.
That's a good idea, but that's not allowable or
Right.
something like that.
Is the code structured to the fact itself there is flexibility? Not that I'm saying I want to be flexible,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But the fact, is there flexibility or is it more black and white?
It's never black and white.
Yeah, that's what I
why
figured. That's what I wanted to
there's
hear, right?
that's why the tax code's over a
Right.
couple of thousand pages. But the answer depends, right?
Right.
It depends on what your business is.
Right.
So let me give you an example. I have a client who's a Bavarian band.
Okay.
So what do I get to deduct for them? A Lederhausen and beer steins, right?
Wow.
Now for you, I won't be able to deduct that because
I can't deduct my beer steins.
or your Lederhausen because that's not part of your business.
Yeah, right.
So it depends on what your business is and what's ordinary and necessary
Right.
for your business.
Yeah.
So some of our speakers can have some quite creative. I mean, we have a speaker who has his his shtick is the rubber chicken, right? Well, that's his
I know
thing.
Tim Gard very well.
That's Tim. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, for Tim, he can deduct those rubber chickens.
That's beyond when I see Tim, he's probably not here. No, when he comes, all right, Tim, all right, we're gonna ask you about the deductions of your rubber
Yeah,
chickens.
there you
all
go.
right?
Right, right. But I probably can't deduct the rubber chickens because it's got nothing to do with
No,
what I
not at
do,
all.
right?
Unless I start putting them in the show. All right.
Exactly, exactly. So the answer is it depends.
Right.
But you don't want to get overly creative. Or
All right.
what's been happening recently is people get all these ideas from social media
Right.
and they're all debunked strategies. And for some
Right.
reason, human beings like to do the debunked strategies.
Right, right.
And I read that in the message boards and all that. It's like, wait a minute, those people lost and they had to pay back lots of money in taxes plus penalties and interest, and
Yeah.
it can get very expensive.
Yeah. Right.
So let me give you another example.
Good.
It just happened recently. There's a tax court case where the tax lawyer used AI to draft his brief. Okay, you know where I'm going, right? Well, of course, the tax court judge is going to check the sites. Well, number one, the cases didn't exist. The sites didn't go to those type of cases.
Right.
And it was, I mean, AI has a tendency to hallucinate. And as professionals, you got to check your work.
You think?
You don't just submit the output of AI and give it to a judge. That's a bad idea.
That's probably the number one thing you start off with. Tax, don't use AI.
Well, if you use AI, it's a tool.
It sure is.
AI
That
is a
is.
tool. It's a tool, but you got to check it
Right.
and you got to verify it. Just like anything else. The calculator, you got to check your calculator,
Yeah.
your computer, everything.
right.
It's a tool. We have a lot of tools to help us with our job,
Sure.
but it still takes the expertise and knowledge and experience of the professional.
Yeah. Keep the associated expenses to the type of structure of your business and what your business demands.
Exactly.
Can't say any more than. So, Larry, if there's one thing that we can leave our audience with, okay, about tax, okay, not the tax that hold a paper up on a wall. I said we're talking really tax for the structure
Mhm.
and definition of your business. What's the one thing itself you'd like to leave your audience with?
I think it's the importance of planning.
Okay.
Planning before the end of the year,
All right.
looking ahead,
Okay.
doing some projections so you don't get caught flat-footed with, oh, no, I
Right.
got this big bill. I spent all the money already. Well,
Sure,
you still
right.
got to set aside some money for the taxes. And
Right.
it's
Exactly.
okay to pay taxes.
Sure.
I mean, that's not what tax planning is about, so not to pay taxes.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, if you want to be that $1 million speaker, that's great.
Yeah. Right.
But we can plan to pay the least amount of taxes
Right.
allowed.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean pay no taxes.
No, not at all. But I'm thinking from your experience themselves in the tax, the structure, the codes, and everything else like this. I think people themselves really need to reach out to somebody that's definitely very, affiliated,
Right.
or
Right.
let's just say knowledgeable,
Mhm.
already in those particular areas. Larry, how can people, after reading and or just listening to your cast today, how can they reach you?
You can look me up on LinkedIn.
All right, how's that?
Just look up my name, Larry Pond on LinkedIn. That's the best,
Larry
easiest.
Pond on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
All righty. And then any website out there?
www.larrypondcpa.com.
Got it. All right. So, Larry, this has been very interesting.
Oh,
and I think
very
it's going to
good.
be extremely interesting for our guests too as well. I want to thank you
Oh,
very
thank
much
you
for
much.
coming on and hanging out and talking about tax.
Okay,
One of the
very
most
good.
exciting topics
Oh,
out
I
there.
think it's the most interesting topic. I can talk for days on end.
Without a doubt. So, Larry, thank you very much for being with us.
Well,
and
thank you
guys,
much.
thank you. I want to thank you very much for tuning in. All right, Larry, thank you.
Thank you much.
Have a great day. Thanks.
All right.
Take care.